to my sewing room. We have such an exciting show for you today. And before we get started, I have some beautiful garments to show you. A lot of you love to sew for yourselves or for your grown daughters or your mothers or your grandmothers, and this is a beautiful camisole. Notice the embroidery that was made by machine, the wonderful trim, the baby daisy entredeaux, and then the serger pin tucks done in the palest shade of pink that are on this beautiful camisole. Another camisole that's very elegant also is this white one with the purchased trim. All of these trims are done by serger. Such an easy project to make and one that is ever so elegant. Now, who in the world does not love a beautiful christening dress? And especially one where we use the wonderful embroidery stitches on the sewing machine. This particular bodice of this dress, which looks for the world as if it were about 150 years old, has the machine baby daisy entredeaux and a letter, a monogram in the middle. And let me share with you the sleeves. This is a leg of mutton sleeve done with serger trim and a magnificent machine embroidery on the top of the sleeves. The dress has 3 wonderful strips of puffing made on the machine, of course. And then I'd like to share with you the bottom of this dress, how pretty it is. It has the pin stitch or Madeira applique stitch all the way along the bottom, attaching the lace. Now, this adorable little girl's dress was so darling for church or for a portrait, almost any time of the year. The laces in the middle are butted together with the machine entredeaux, and then we've used a serger or the serger tucks around the bottom of the skirt done in blue. I am very pleased to have as my guest today Ann Riegel. Ann is the National Communications Director for Baby Lock at Tacony Corporation. And next I'm going to go over to the technique boards and share along with Ann, one of her special techniques.
Today I'm going to show you just how easy it is to make this beautiful heirloom christening bonnet. About 99% of it was done on the serger, and it was very quick and easy, of course, and used very little fabric. I started out with 4 strips of 3-inch by 22-inch pieces of fabric. I have a yard of entredeaux cut in half, and then I have about 1.5 yards of gathered lace. Then I begin assembling or making the sections that will be assembled. First, I sewed the gathered lace to one edge of the long strip of the fabric and then gathered the other edge. To make the puffing strip, I gathered both edges of the long strip. Here, I used the conventional sewing machine. Gave me a chance to show off the decorative stitches on the sewing machine. And of course, you can use tone on tone or a different color to really make that stitch stand out. The last section was made using the rolled edge pin tuck on the serger. Again, very quick and easy. Now the process is really just assembling those sections. I've taken the gathered piece with the lace and attached it to the entredeaux, attached the puffing to the entredeaux, another piece of entredeaux. Here I've added the decorative stitch with the sewing machine, and then the rolled edge section is added lastly, and I did use a serger to assemble each of those pieces. Trim off the edge. You're going to have some pieces sticking out. Go ahead and trim up the edge and then add lace to either side of the bonnet. I serge finished the raw edge here. Turn this under about 1/2 inch and then straight stitch it to make a casing. Now the bonnet's just about complete. Add 1/4 inch ribbon into this casing to pull that up and complete the back of the bonnet, and then simply attach ribbon to either side for the ties in the front. Now that's really quick and easy, and I'm going to show you just how easy it is to make that using the serger.
Oh, Ann, that did look quick and easy, and it's so pretty too. Show me.
Well, thank you. It is. It's just great. You know, and one of the reasons it's so easy is because of the wonderful features that are on sergers today.
Oh, it's so exciting.
It really is. And actually, one of those wonderful features, of course, is differential feed. Now, what I've done is, as I said, I've added the lace to the fabric, and I'm going to gather the opposite edge, and I simply place the fabric at the toe of the foot, set a differential feed, setting of 2 that actually feeds the fabric in faster than it feeds out instantly gathers my fabric edge.
And you know, I call that magic is all I can say. Perfect gathers every
Isn't
time.
that beautiful?
Oh, it's just beautiful.
Now, the puffing strip is just as easy. Of course, place your fabric right at the edge here.
You're not changing the settings at all.
I'm just gathering this. You know what I really appreciate about the gathered edge on a serger is the fact that the edges are finished. You know, in the past,
Exactly.
finishing this on a conventional sewing machine, you always ended up with all of those threads sticking out. It seemed to me by the time I gathered the fabric, I ended up, you know, basically losing my fabric edge there. Now, for the puffing strip, simply serge, and serge carefully because you want to trim off your fabric edge. And that quickly, I've made a puffing strip.
That is absolutely fascinating. And both the edges are finished beautifully, too.
Yes.
If you just wanted to butt them up and put entree or lace or something like that on it.
Exactly. It's very quick and easy. Okay, the next step, now, and I've just made 2 of the sections for my bonnet. So it was that quick. Yes, it truly is very fast. Now, the other thing that I did was put together, I took a strip of fabric and then I stitched, as I said, with my conventional sewing machine. I made this beautiful stitch here. I used a stabilizer behind the fabric because it is a lightweight fabric and I wanted to have a nice flat stitch. And another little tip here is using that 3-inch wide strip. I sewed down the middle, but I don't always sew real straight. So what I did is I stitched down the center as best I could, and then I took my rotary cutter and ruler and then just lined it up along the edge and then cut the edge, so now I have a straight edge on either side. So it really did make some sense there. Something else I did want to show too, using different threads. I had talked about possibly using, this is a variegated thread. Doesn't that really add some zip?
You know, it does, and especially if it's going to be for a little brightly colored print dress. You could have all those colors in your dress, couldn't you?
Exactly. So that one, of course, was quick and easy and fun too, because I got to experiment with my threads and my stitches. Now the next piece, the next section, is the rolled edge section. And this means that I changed the setting on my machine, and it's very quick and easy to do. I'm going to simply select my D setting here on the machine. With the rolled edge pin tuck, I don't want to cut the fabric edge. Now what I'm going to do is fold the fabric, and I'll show that in a second. So what I'm going to do here is actually lock the machine or lock the cutting blade so that it doesn't trim fabric as I sew. I'm going to use a shorter, a narrower stitch width and a shorter stitch length because I want to have some nice thread coverage there. Now just quickly take the fabric, and I've marked it every 1.5 inches.
The fold line. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then I just fold this right here. No need to press it. Place the fabric.
Line it on the foot.
You know, one of the things I want to do, and just that quickly, I always like to test to make sure I've got the thread chain, my rolled edge thread chain coming out. Put my differential feed back to my normal setting and simply serge right along that folded edge. And then I will just continue to fold and serge. Now, if you want to use a decorative thread, which I have used for this rolled edge pin tuck, you'll use the decorative thread in the upper looper.
Okay.
Because that's really the thread that's showing, is that upper looper's thread. Okay. And you just continue on until you have all the pin tucks that you need. Now, the fun part is putting all of these together. You can see how now with the gathered lace edge, simply attach the entree-deux, and I should show you that I did use the serger. I used a 3-thread stitch, attached each of these pieces together. So again, it went together very quickly. And then serge finish the edge, straight stitch the casing, added my lace and my bows, and then it's almost like magic. That's the great part here. That flat piece becomes dimensional with this casing.
That is so adorable. And you know what? Now, where are your tension set? Did you set the tension in any special way? I didn't
this
see
machine
it.
is so much fun. There are no tensions.
Oh, come on.
This machine has absolutely no tensions, no tension settings, and instant jet air threading, so I don't have to deal with all those thread guides
Well,
either.
I was just wondering why you didn't tell us about the tension settings. That's exciting.
Isn't that great?
Oh, Anne, thank you so much for sharing
welcome.
this beautiful bonnet with us. And now Anne has a wonderful home decorating project for you, a beautiful baby mobile. Using a Mother Goose theme, Anne has brought several things for the nursery, and I've asked her permission to share them with you before she shows you the adorable mobile. Anne, tell us about it.
Isn't this gorgeous? This is using the custom card for the nursery rhymes, and as you said, Mother Goose theme, and doing all of the embroidery in the center, and then just putting these together. Lovely, soft, wonderful padding. Gathering fabric, using decorative stitches right here along the edges to really add a little bit more oomph to it, and attaching bows, and isn't it just darling?
Oh, that is the cutest
I love
quilt.
this.
And what about this
and of
adorable
course,
lamp?
Isn't that
Lampshade.
great? And you know, and that's, I think, the thing when you think about home decorating or decorating anywhere in the home. The nursery is so wonderful, and just adding some trims, ribbons, again using a contrasting thread and the scallop stitch on the sewing machine. This is actually one of the stitches on the machine.
And
Isn't
this
that
is just
darling?
elastic around the top to
Yes,
hold it on
exactly, exactly.
Oh, how
just
easy.
so quick and easy.
Oh, and what about our little project for today?
And this, I just absolutely love this. I think it is so precious. This is actually a doll's umbrella. And what we're doing is turning it into a mobile for the crib, but using the embroidery and embroidering each panel, each section of the fabric, and then just attaching it to this.
And the
the skeleton
bells.
of the umbrella
The
and the little
just
bells make
twinkle
it so
along.
much fun. And of course, the little lamb at the top.
Oh, that's. You want to show us how we do
Okay,
this?
and a couple of things. Now, and as I said, you just simply do the embroidery. Now, what I've done here is I want to add just a little bit more to it and embroider the fabric. What I've done here is embroidered felt, and using the thread in the bobbin, the same as the top, I've actually made these little appliques or freestanding appliques that can then be cut out, and using this ribbon, I'm going to attach this here and attach it to the little mobile. So now I have those dangling little sweet mobiles.
That has they're proper on each side by using the bobbin thread. That's
Exactly.
an excellent idea.
Yes, matching the same thread to the top. So you make basically a reversible freestanding applique. Now, a couple of other things that I wanted to talk about with embroidery, and if you go into that same thing, those freestanding appliques, here are some little sachets. We used the embroidery to decorate the fabric edge, and then embroidered the fabric around the edges, had 2 layers of fabric, cut that out again. So basically it's a matter of stitching and then cutting out to make those freestanding pieces.
Oh, and they're absolutely adorable, and it is fun to decorate a nursery.
Yes.
And now we have a beautiful doll dress for you. This beautiful blue-eyed blonde doll has some really interesting techniques on her French dress. Let me share them with you. This particular technique is butting the pieces of Swiss embroidery, the scalloped bottom edges, butting them together. See the little lace that's peeking through? And I love that little pink piping that goes around her waist. I'm going to turn her around and let you take a quick look at her sleeves. It features that same technique of butting the scallops together and having the French lace that peeks through. Also, she has a really pretty entredeaux and gathered lace edging on her sleeves. Now, the skirt of this dress is really interesting also. This is one piece of wide Swiss edging, and you can certainly make your own if you have a machine that embroiders, with the scallops here and the same thing underneath. Now let me share with you how easy it is to use these techniques on a doll dress for your doll. First of all, here is the Swiss edging. I have butted together the scalloped edges to leave, see, this is just a piece of French insertion with the 2 pieces of edging. I have butted a piece together, and then I'm going to pin them, and then one side is zigzagged along there, and here are both sides have been zigzagged along. Then I'm going to turn it over to the back and trim away. trim away the excess lace edging, as a matter of fact, insertion, and trim this away too. That is the bodice of the dress. After all of this has been done, then trace off the pattern, cut it out, and you're ready to sew. The sleeve is done exactly the same way. The two scalloped edges are butted together. They are zigzagged down, and then after that is done, trace off your sleeve, cut it out, and get ready to sew. The skirt is very easy to do. This is a piece of Swiss edging. There is another one exactly the same length underneath it. I have matched the scallops. I've simply come along and zigzagged where the scallops are joined, and then I'll go back in after that is finished and trim away this excess Swiss edging behind. Now then, here is how you make that skirt. I have placed these scallops where I want them to be, and I'm simply going to zigzag around right on top of those scallops. As a matter of fact, it makes a really pretty, almost a little bit of a heavy look to combine the two pieces. I'm going to zigzag around the scallops, just hanging on to it after I pinned it a little bit, and that's absolutely all there is to joining those two pieces of Swiss edging together. And by the way, you can make your own Swiss edging real easily. Let me just stop right here and show you what we did. See, I just zigzagged the two pieces together, this time using all white thread rather than blue as I did on my sample illustration. Come along with me to see a really interesting girl's dress, and I'm going to demonstrate some techniques over at the technique boards. The dress pattern for this series has some absolutely magnificent possibilities for embellishment. Today, our dress is done out of an ice blue silk dupioni with crossed double needle pin tucks on the beautiful collar, and of course it has lace and entredeaux. Let me share with you this sleeve. It is really magnificent. It has the crossed double needle pin tucks on the sleeve with a gathered lace edging, an insertion, really, really pretty, and also a really elegant sleeve finish on the bottom. Little girls and big girls alike love this princess line. Once again, let me open the front of the skirt. Isn't that beautiful? It has the crossed pin tucks and the gathered lace edging and the insertion that go all the way down to the bottom. Now, there are a few special tricks in doing those crossed pin tucks. Actually inserting it in your sleeve. Let me just kind of run through this with you. I think this is a special technique. All right, first of all, let's just take the sleeve that has the crossed pin tucks in the middle. Trace off the sleeve pattern, trace your lines for your lace insertion, straight stitch it first, and then go back and zigzag. Now, why do we do that on silk dupioni? Because it ravels, that's why. All right, then I'm going to fold the lace back, zigzag one side only. I'm going to fold it back, and then I'm going to trim away, thus making a pattern. Trim away the whole center of the silk dupioni. After I trim it away, including the little part that goes under the lace, this is my pattern for the sleeve. To do the double needle crossed pin tucks, I then take another square strip of fabric, not that piece I just cut out, but a square strip of fabric, because it kind of smooshes it in a little bit when you do double needle pin tucks. Then I trace off my grid lines, and then I double needle pin tuck, 3, 4, 5, and then after all of those are done, I come back and do the other thing on the other side. Now, I've got my pin tucked piece, so I take my pattern I made earlier, trace off the pattern well, that's already stitched down, so I can't really show you, but trace off the pattern on the pin tucked piece, and then I come back in and straight stitch the lace first, then trim it back. This is called the extra stable lace finish because of the fact that silk dupioni ravels. Trim it back and go back and zigzag down once again in order to attach it. And then let's just come right here and see how that sleeve is then finished. I'll gather the lace edging onto the inside edges of the pin tucked piece and then run 2 rows of gathering, and then I will have my beautiful sleeve. It will be finished, and just adding a few little tiny beads stitched in by hand gives me that beautiful sleeve finish, and the front of the skirt is fixed like that too. Now I have a very beautiful quilt square to share with you. It's called a tied bow. quilt for our series, or rather one of the quilt for our series, has a square that I'm going to share with you how to do it right now. This is called a tied bow. And you tie the bow and shape it down, and then actually this one has a beautiful feather stitch around it. Okay, how do you make that tied bow? Well, you can draw a template if you want to. It is not necessary, but you can draw a template. And then after you shape it, you stitch down on the outside, and this one has it done in bright orange, a feather stitch to show you how it was shaped. Here is the tied bow after you kind of start with it. You tie it and then you're ready to shape it. Now, I have a trick to show you. I want to share with you a trick that a first grade teacher up in Ann Arbor, Michigan taught me when I was out teaching sewing, teaching lace shaping. She said, "Oh, Martha, I'm going to teach you how to make a bunny rabbit ear bow." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I would like to make a bunny rabbit ear bow." So first of all, I have put my bunny rabbits, I've made little bunny rabbit ears, just simply folded them over, and I have 2 little ears. Now here's a little poem that goes with it, and she teaches her first graders how to tie shoes by using this bunny rabbit ear poem. All right, around the tree and into the hole, pull the ears and you have a bow. My bow has a little bit, one of the ears is a little bit too long here. That is not a worry at all. I'm just going to hold it and pull the long ear back a little bit, and then I'll put both fingers in here and hold it, and now I'm ready to shape my bunny ear bow. Now then, after I shape it, I'm going to show you how we're going to sit down and simply zigzag the bunny rabbit ear bow. All right, after I tie the bow, I'm going to shape it by putting pins on the outside and pulling the inside threads, and then I'm going to put stabilizer underneath my sewing machine, and I'm going to simply zigzag it down. Now then, if you would like to do a wing needle entredot stitch, that is great too. That is always beautiful. Don't sew on any pins. I think no sewing machine manufacturer in the world recommends sewing over pins. But all there is to sewing down any lace shaping is simply zigzagging, and you do not have to have a fancy machine to do French sewing by machine with lots of wonderful lace shaping. If you have straight and zigzag, that is absolutely okay. Now you're going to want to use those beautiful entredot stitches if you have them. The entredot stitch, the Madeira applique stitch, the pin stitch, but you don't have to. You can just use a plain zigzag for your lace shaping. Now I'm not going to finish that. Let me just pull it out so you can see how easy it is to shape the laces and then to zigzag them down. Won't you come along with me to my attic? I call this magnificent turn-of-the-century dress Tucked Innocence dress. I'd like to share with you why. The beautiful high neckline has the batiste and the insertion, and then comes the medley of tucks. Tucks in the V, tucks in the diamond, tucks down the front, tucks over here on the shoulders, even tucks on the sleeves, 2 sets of 3 beautiful tucks, and oh, this sleeve is so beautiful. The tucks even go on little tiny bands around the sleeve with this gathered lace edging to finish up the sleeve. Now moving on down to the waistline, I think is just incredible on this dress. More little tiny bands of tucks, wider tucks that go into a V, and there is lace insertion in between each one of those sets. I know you always love to look at the skirts also, so let me pull this up so you can really get a nice look at it. Wide tucks, more sets of 3 tiny tucks, beautiful wide tuck, and underneath that the ruffle has been attached. More beautiful wide tucks, and then moving on down to 3 tiny tucks, and then the hem on this dress. I just don't think you could have a prettier dress in your collection, and I'm very, very proud of that one. I'd like to thank you very much for joining me in my sewing room today. I've had a wonderful time, and I hope you have too. Now, won't you join me next time?